Welcome to America, where the government is a reality show. Hey there, welcome to the United States. We've got it all: majestic mountains, sparkling oceans, and a government that's more dramatic than a season finale of The Real Housewives. But don't worry, understanding how it all works is easier than you think. Our founding fathers, in their infinite wisdom, decided to make our government a bit like a reality show competition. They divided it into three branches: the executive, the legislative, and the judicial. Each branch has its own powers and responsibilities, and they're supposed to keep each other in check. Think of it like a love triangle, but instead of romance, it's about running a country. Now you might be thinking, John, this sounds more complicated than trying to understand cryptocurrency. And you'd be right. But stick with me, because understanding how your government works is important. It's like understanding how to use the remote control. You need to know which buttons to push to get what you want. So buckle up, grab some popcorn, and let's dive into the wild world of American government. Three branches, no harmony: executive, legislative, and judicial. First up, we've got the executive branch. This is where the president hangs out, along with their entourage of advisors and assistants. Think of the president as the CEO of America, Inc. They're in charge of enforcing the laws, commanding the military, and basically being the face of the country. Next, we've got the legislative branch, also known as Congress. This is where things get a little messy. Congress is divided into two parts: the House of Representatives and the Senate. They're like the two roommates who can never agree on what to order for takeout. The House is all about representing the people, while the Senate is supposed to be the voice of reason, though sometimes it seems like the other way around. Together, their job is to make the laws. And finally, we've got the judicial branch, ruled by the Supreme Court. These 9 judges are like the referees of the government, making sure everyone is playing by the rules. They interpret the laws and decide if they're constitutional. Basically, they're the ones who tell the president and Congress when they're out of line. The executive branch, more than just Oval Office selfies. Let's get back to the executive branch, shall we? We all know the president lives in the White House and gets to fly on Air Force One. But their job is a lot more than just looking presidential and signing important-looking documents. The president is responsible for implementing and enforcing the laws written by Congress. They do this by appointing the heads of federal agencies, like the Department of Education or the Environmental Protection Agency. Think of these agencies as the departments of a company, each with its own specific tasks. The president also acts as commander-in-chief of the military, which means they're in charge of the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, and Space Force. Yes, we have a Space Force now. Don't worry, they have generals and admirals to help them with the whole military strategy thing. And of course, the president gets to represent the United States on the world stage, meeting with foreign leaders, negotiating treaties, and generally trying to make America look good, or at least not completely bonkers. The legislative branch, where bills go to die, sometimes. Now let's talk about the legislative branch, aka Congress. These folks are responsible for making the laws that govern our land. It's a tough job, but someone's got to do it, and complain about it on Twitter. The House of Representatives is made up of 435 members, each representing a different district in the United States. The number of representatives each state gets is based on its population, so California has a lot more clout than, say, Wyoming. The Senate, on the other hand, is a bit more exclusive. Each state gets 2 senators, regardless of population. That means that a state with a few thousand people has the same amount of power in the Senate as a state with millions. It's like giving everyone in your class the same grade on a group project, even if some people just slept through it. To pass a law, a bill has to be approved by both the House and the Senate. This is where things can get really interesting, or frustrating, depending on your point of view. Bills are debated, amended, and sometimes even killed off entirely. It's like a legislative obstacle course, and only the fittest bills survive. Section 5, the judicial branch, gaveling for justice. Last but not least, we have the judicial branch headed by the Supreme Court. These 9 justices are appointed for life, which means they can pretty much do whatever they want, within reason, of course. The Supreme Court's main job is to interpret the Constitution and make sure that the laws passed by Congress and the actions taken by the president are constitutional. They do this by hearing cases that are appealed from lower courts. The Supreme Court's decisions have a huge impact on our lives, shaping everything from our civil rights to our healthcare to our education. So yeah, they're kind of a big deal. Section 6 Democracy, it's your vote, use it. So we've covered the three branches of government. Now let's talk about the system that holds it all together. Democracy. Democracy is a fancy word for rule by the people. It means that we, the citizens, have the power to decide who represents us and makes decisions on our behalf. We do this through voting. Now I know what you're thinking. Voting? That sounds about as much fun as a root canal. But trust me, it's important. Voting is the most powerful tool we have to make our voices heard and hold our elected officials accountable. Think of it this way, every vote is like a tiny brick, and together our votes build the foundation of our democracy. Without enough bricks, the whole thing crumbles. Section 7 Elections, the great American reality show. Speaking of voting, let's talk about elections. Every 4 years, Americans head to the polls to elect a new president. It's like a national holiday, except instead of fireworks, we have political ads. But it's not just the president we vote for. We also elect members of Congress, governors, mayors, and even dog catchers. Okay, maybe not dog catchers, but you get the idea. These elections are important because they determine who has the power to make decisions that affect our lives. Now I know what you're thinking, elections, they're just a popularity contest for rich people. And you're not entirely wrong. But here's the thing, even if you don't like any of the candidates, it's still important to vote. Why? Because if you don't vote, you're letting other people decide for you. Section 8, why your vote matters because every vote counts. You might be thinking, my vote doesn't matter, it's just one vote out of millions. And while it's true that your vote alone won't swing a national election, it's still important to cast your ballot. Here's why. First, your vote sends a message. Even if your candidate loses, your vote tells the winner that you're paying attention and that you care about the issues. It also tells the loser that there are people out there who support their ideas. Second, your vote contributes to something bigger than yourself. When millions of people vote, it sends a powerful message about the will of the people. It shows the world that we, the citizens, are the ones in charge. And finally, your vote honors the sacrifices of those who came before us. Countless men and women have fought and died for our right to vote. To throw that right away is to disrespect their sacrifice. Section 9, be informed, be engaged, be the change. So there you have it, a crash course in the US government and democracy. It's a complex system, but it's our system. And the only way to make it work is to participate. So please, stay informed, stay engaged, and most importantly, vote. Because in a democracy, your voice matters.